Ubisoft is moving esports for Siege away from ESL, and they were the ones who had the name for the league, so for all intents and purposes, CL is now dead. So, that was a mistake. We already knew the landscape of Siege esports was about to undergo its most ambitious shakeup yet, and we're now one step closer to understanding how everything works. The North American League was outlined yesterday in a series of blog posts from Ubisoft that explain the split between United States and Canadian play, how Challenger League is still a factor, who will be competing, and how everything ties together for majors down the road. I want to emphasize this video will specifically cover North American information, even though we also got a little bit of Europe and APAC info yesterday as well. Those reveals will happen later on this month. This is just NAL. I already know there's going to be a lot to unpack here, so if you're ever confused about something, feel free to rewatch a part of the video that doesn't make sense to you. I'm reading off of a script right here with all the details on it, but if you're still confused, leave a comment below with your question or ask me on Twitter and I will be happy to explain. Links to both blog posts are in the description. As was announced at the Six Invitational 2020, a standard season is 9 months long, split into 3 5-week-long stages. 2020 only has 2 stages because we're starting in the middle of the year, so once 2021 starts, we'll add that 3rd stage on at the end. This is all one long-term process. Each split is marked by a new major every 3 months, as well as the Invitational in February, but where we had the US Nationals Finals in December, it's now being replaced with a North American Finals LAN event. More on that in a second. The United States and Canada have been split into their own respective divisions, with the US having 8 teams and Canada having 4, and each of them have their own Challenger League division as well, but that will come later too. This is great because the Canadian national program has existed for a while, but wasn't really ever taken seriously compared to the US Nationals, which had almost every North American pro team in it every year regardless. Now, there's something very important that I want to make clear because it's attracted a lot of attention and a fair bit of misunderstanding. The US division was originally planned as having 10 teams, adding 2 more than were in NA Pro League from last season. The US is also moving to an offline LAN format, which teams will have to relocate to Las Vegas, Nevada to participate in. There's a cost associated with moving a whole team into the same location, so Ubisoft wanted to ensure every team that participated had organizational backing, so that players could still play without worrying about all of that back-end work, and the orgs could also have a stake in the new pilot program. Disrupt Gaming and the Susquehanna Sonics were accepted as those 9th and 10th organizations, and then Evil Geniuses and Luminosity said they were backing out. They didn't think the return on investment for moving teams to Las Vegas was worth all the hassle, and after negotiations with Ubisoft fell through, they said sayonara. I'm not trying to dive back into the issue of whether the players they left behind should have lost their spots. I'm saying DG and the Sonics are not replacing EG and LG. Them being in the new league has nothing to do with both of those orgs bailing out. They were already in the new system when the Hyena debacle set the whole world on fire. And remember back when I talked about this being an interesting transition period? We're just gonna have to accept that both DG and SQ did not have to play through Challenger League in order to get those 2 spots because Ubisoft was looking for orgs to make sure they had all of the players' bases covered. So if you have any issue here, make sure that it's with the right people, please. But what about Team Reciprocity? Team Reciprocity is going underground because they can't get funding in our current economic recession to keep on playing players' contracts. But those players have been picked up by a newcomer called Oxygen Esports and will retain their spot in the US division. So our 8 teams in the US look like this. The Sonics have 1 more player they need to confirm, and DG needs to announce who's on their roster at all. But this is who we'll see competing in Las Vegas moving forward. Canada doesn't have any teams yet, but will hold open qualifiers at the end of May to determine who their 4 participants will be for this season. Matches in this new season are best of 3s. Everything we saw in PL recently was a best of 1, but now all NAL games are being played as first to 2 map wins. We don't have exact information on how scoring works in the new system, but the idea is the 4 teams in the whole NAL with the most points throughout a stage will then qualify for that stage's corresponding major. If I remember correctly, all majors are 16 teams, meaning teams from every region are guaranteed spots, but I'll wait for more info on how those work before I lock in that assumption. So that is the NAL. That's the highest level of competition in North America for the guys who are already pros. But how do you get to that level? Through Challenger League. It's not dead, baby. We still have CL. Can I have a job again? NACL follows a very similar path to the big league. 2 stages this year, 3 stages next year, and I believe this one is also in a best of 3 format. But the list of teams in either division can change a lot faster now. This might seem complicated, but bear with me. At the start of each new stage, we will hold a new CL qualifier. Top 2 teams from that qual play the bottom 2 teams in CL in relegation matches, which means we can see teams get removed from CL altogether before the season is even over. This begins at the start of 2020's Stage 2 in mid-September, and I would assume it happens for both the US and Canadian Challenger Leagues, but that's something that hasn't been made totally clear yet. Both divisions split their 8 teams into 2 groups, and then both group winners will play each other to determine an overall winner. And this is where relegations come back into play. At the North American Finals event in December, the top CL teams in their divisions will play the top team that was dead last in both Pro League divisions for the right to claim their spot next season. Deja vu, anyone? For example, if Vanquish are the winners of American CL and Disrupt are the 8th place team in the US division, both of them will play at the NA Finals, and the winner heads to the US division for the next season. It's a play on how relegations have worked in the past, but instead of 2 teams potentially getting replaced, this time it's just 1. Because you need to have org representation to play in the US division, I'd be curious to know if the last place team gets kicked from their org if relegated and replaced by the same team that beat them so the org can retain their spot. UB seems like they're trying to both franchise the league and not franchise it at the same time, but I'm sure we'll get that question answered a little closer to the NA Finals in December. So that's most of it, but there's a few things that don't really make sense. The announcement post originally stated that Faceit would be taking over production duties from ESL for this league, but that part of the post has mysteriously disappeared, so I don't really know what to make of that. And I'm curious about why the CL closed qualifiers are only single elimination as opposed to double elimination, and why PogChamp, the winner of NACL Season 11, isn't automatically guaranteed a spot in the new Challenger League. Did that season we put all that work into mean genuinely nothing? I'm sure the answer is yes, and those guys are going to be pissed off. But for the most part, everything here is something I like. 3-stage season, new scoring method for major qualification, Canada gets better representation, relegations are still a thing, best of 3s in the new norm. Like, this does nothing but make me more excited for this new season to begin. Sorry if it's a lot to take in, but we asked for a change to the Pro League system for a long time, and we can absolutely get used to this system once we give it enough time. We don't have the exact dates for NAL to start, but Canada Division quals start on May 30th, and CL quals for both divisions start on June 6th. Take those dates down if you're interested in participating. If I missed anything, please let me know in the comments, and I'm happy to answer questions. We didn't get everything answered yesterday, but we got the structure figured out, and that's more than enough for me right now. That is all from me. The announcement about Europe and Latin America will take place on May the 20th, and the Asia Pacific announcement will take place May 27th, so we can get into more detail on both of those once those are announced. Hit up my Twitter, my Twitch, and this YouTube channel for more in the coming days, please and thank you, and you can find both official posts about the NAL in the description if you want to read up on all the new changes. Thanks, see you later. Peace.